J.T. Crowley is Talking Books. On the show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world. They'll give you their take on the writing process and how to create the secret sauce of page-turning deliciousness. Let's get into that magical mixture of the art and science of creativity. Here's J.T. Crowley, author of The Smart Kids, and your podcast host.
Hello everyone, I'm J.T. Crowley, and today I have another interesting author for you. Eleanor Riley from Brooklyn in New York in the United States. Eleanor has written, as far as I can see, 2 books, Out of Evil, the first one, and Rungs on My Ladder. And it's Rungs on My Ladder that we're going to talk about today. She's married to her husband Cecil, who in her church carries the title Apostle Cecil. They are both church people dedicating their lives to the service of God and the community, both local to them and the wider field. Eleanor and Cecil have been blessed with 2 daughters, Elizabeth and Esther, who have now flown the nest, so to speak, to follow their own career paths. Eleanor was born in Westmoreland, Jamaica, a western parish of the island of Jamaica. Her book, for me, is a kind of autobiographical memoir in steps of both her personal and spiritual life, which are so deeply entwined. From a young girl in Jamaica to the present day as a first lady within her church. She shares the ups and downs that she's faced as she's climbed all 56 rungs, everybody, of her ladder. Rungs of My Ladder, that's why the book is called that, because this is all about her life, her spiritual and personal life, 56 steps, 56 rungs on this imaginary ladder. So let's chat to her to reveal what are those 56 rungs in this lady's life. Eleanor, come and join me.
Hello, John. How are you today?
I'm good. And yes, so I'm from Derby in the United Kingdom, and here I am chatting to you in Brooklyn in the United States of America. For me,
sounds like you're right next door.
I know. For me, it's afternoon, but for you, it's morning.
Morning here in the East Coast. Yes.
Eleanor, your book is fascinating. What I want to know is, Ella, your book has 12 chapters in it. And to each of those chapters, you have 56 rungs within the whole book.
Yes.
And for me, they are a step both in your personal and spiritual life. What was the reason for setting this significant book of yours out in this manner, in this fashion? Why all the rungs, and why did you group certain rungs into certain the 12 chapters within your book?
I tell you, John, I could write a few more rungs added to that. You mentioned 56, and I know that I have more than another 56. And to be honest, I believe my life story is a unique one. I honestly believe that. And every person should believe that their life story is a unique one. It's remarkable, different, I say, from most people. And I speak for myself. You know, the journey of life is not a rehearsal. And we should know that. We pass this way once, one time. And whatever we do between now and then needs to be written. It's a wrong. You know, so every day, every minute of the day, something new happens. And it's an experience, not only for yourself, but for others. Someone else can, you know, when they get up to that rung, they can say, well, here it is. You know, someone has been this way before.
So let's go to your first chapter, Eleanor.
Yes.
In your first chapter, which you titled The Beginning, you talk about your place of birth, your first day at school, and the ethos about obtaining an education, which, as far as I understand, having had several conversations with you, because we've chatted before we've come on this podcast, everybody.
Yes.
That education is prior to not only you, but for women throughout the whole world as well.
Yes.
And it's this education that you brought from your birth your childhood right up to the present day. It's so important to you. It's been there for your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that chapter, you got an anonymous quote, and you say, "Labor for learning before you grow old, for learning is better than silver or gold. Silver and gold will vanish away, but a good education will never decay." You go on to talk about your first spiritual connection through the Holy Spirit when you attended the Church of the Firstborn in Maypen, Jamaica. When I look at this chapter, Eleanor, I think this is you. This is you introducing yourself to the readers, your humble beginnings, you as a person, you're introducing a bit to your spiritual life here. I'm right, aren't I?
Say that again.
I'm right, aren't I? This first chapter is about you.
It's about me.
As a humble background from the start and the start of your spiritual life.
Yes.
Would you care to tell us more here?
Oh, well, I could sit here and tell you all about that for the next 10 days. I always keep referring to my youthful days, as a child coming up from school, coming right up to my church. I do believe that I was called by God as a special child for a special purpose. And when I got to the age of, Jamaicans always say, the age of when you're responsible, when you're sensible enough to know that right is right and wrong is wrong. In my church that I grew up in from Sunday school, I was taught to love the Lord. And I was taught, to give my life to the Lord as a young girl growing up. And from then on, I grew with a consciousness, a spiritual consciousness that there's something more to life than just waking up every day and doing the same thing over and over again. There's something more to life than that. And I asked God to tell me, what is that about? Show me what's more to life. And what's more to life is to be a Christian, to surrender my life to him and to serve him.
You've already touched upon this. Your book of yours is built around rungs of a ladder. So let's, get to a few of these rungs. So let's get into this book. Okay, so let's go to chapter 3, Eleanor. Now you head that up as destiny. Here you have 6 rungs of this imaginary ladder, 16 to 21 inclusive. And like in all your chapters, each rung, you have a topical heading to it. So what I would like to do now, Eleanor, is to have a look at one of the rungs in this chapter. And we're going to go to rung number 17, meeting his mentor, because this struck me very significantly. Here you talk about your husband, Cecil. Easy to communicate. You talk about your singing. You talk about Bishop Shaw. And you quote John, chapter 3, verse 16, from the King James Version, "For God so loved the world." I love that phrase, and I love that scriptural readings as well. Why did you put this rung in your book in this first chapter, meeting his mentor? What's the relevance to everybody? What's the relevance to you? Your husband, your singing, your easy communication. Taz.
I specifically put that rung in the book because it meant so much to me at the time. My husband, his bishop from a child growing up, his mentor, I did not know him in the beginning, but he talks about him so much. And I could see from his upbringing that he was taught by his mentor a lot of things that kind of fashioned him, as a youth growing up to be who he is today. So telling me about his mentor, his Bishop Shaw, I kind of knew him before I even met him. And I could see that he was really, brought up by this pastor, his bishop, in a good way, because the traits that he has or he displays are traits that I like. And I said, this is something that I could pattern. So I was really happy to meet him, to talk with him, and to see if what was said about him is true. And I realized that all of that was so. So meeting him and, going on with Cecil and being married to him afterwards, meant a lot to me. And I found out that what he told me about him was not a lie,
What about your singing?
You
love your singing.
Say that again?
You love your singing.
I love my singing. I started singing at the age of 7, when maybe younger, when they in our church in Jamaica, when one is talented, you could see the talent in someone from a child growing up. You could see which way they are inclined to go. And I was inclined to sing. I used to just read songs from the book, even if I don't know them. I would learn the words, even if I had to say them in a poem. And, when I started singing, my mother taught me how to sing. And in Sunday school, I don't know if they have Sunday school where you are.
We do.
Or if you know about Sunday school. They used to put me up on a table or on a chair to stand so I could see everybody to sing. And for some reason, I always thought I was the greatest singer at age 7. So I pursued that, and I asked God in my prayer to help me to be a singer. Of course, a lot of people don't think I could sing, but I think I can sing, So I got my singing push from that age of 7. And I sort of built on it as I grew. I built on it. Until I prayed that if I got the opportunity to come to the United States, that's one of the main things I would try to get into, singing and recording. And God has helped me to do that.
When you look at some of the most famous singers in the world, you talk about Eartha Kitt, you talk about Aretha Franklin, you talk about Dionne Warwick, you even talk about Whitney Houston. Their singing careers all stemmed from gospel.
Yes.
The Black African community singing at Sunday schools.
Yes.
Wasn't it?
Yes. I realized, I never thought that I would have gotten to the point where I could talk like them, because every testimony I would say that they have, they would tell you where they saw it from, Sunday school, from the church. The biggest gospel singers are the biggest, singers that's on stage, Beyonce. And
absolutely.
All of them, they start from Sunday school, from the church. And that's a very good thing. That's a very good upbringing, singing from Sunday school, starting up. And God has helped all of them to get to the top,
Yeah.
So, I'm really, really happy to know that I have started at that point also where they have started.
I want to go to chapter 6 now, Eleanor. And of course, I've got to go to chapter 6, everybody, because this chapter, everybody, is headed up First Lady. Now, you won't know this, everybody, but when I first met Eleanor, when we were doing the chit chats to how we're going to do this podcast, when I first saw Eleanor, I immediately thought of Michelle Obama. Of course, Michelle Obama was the former First Lady of the United States. And sometimes when we were chatting, everybody, I would slip into actually calling Eleanor Michelle, and we would giggle and laugh about it. So, of course, when I saw in her book, chapter 6, First Lady, I thought, I'm going here. So let's go to chapter 6. Now, again, you've got several rungs of your personal and spiritual life here.